I have asked Notebook LLM to redo some of my course on time management that I have. Very simple prompt. I fed it the course material on this very specific section that I have on stress and time management. And also it grabbed some complementary information from the internet, I believe. So this is the result. I'm first shot, as I say, I didn't try to improve it or change anything, but just to show you what it can do.
Do you ever feel like you are just constantly, hopelessly running out of time? Well, what if the solution isn't some new productivity app or a fancier calendar? What if it's actually a tool from psychotherapy? Today, we're going to explore how cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, can help you literally think your way out of that time trap. Let's dive in. All right, let's start with a feeling that I'm pretty sure we have all had. You're just staring at a to-do list that feels a mile long, and for every single thing you cross off, it feels like two more just pop up to take its place. You're completely stuck in your own head. I mean, does this sound familiar to you? You've got a million things you need to do, the deadlines are breathing down your neck, and you just feel paralyzed, right? It's like you're stuck on a treadmill that's going way, way too fast, and you can't find the off switch. This quote from a Reddit user just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures this trap. It's such a frustrating paradox, isn't it? You know something could help you, but you feel like you don't have the time to even start it. So you get caught in this loop where the very thought of no time becomes the wall that keeps you from finding more time. And this right here, this brings us to the core idea of what we're talking about today. What if the real problem, the real bottleneck, isn't the number of hours in a day? What if it's the story we tell ourselves about those hours? What if we could actually change our behavior by first changing how we think? And that, my friends, is exactly where cognitive behavioral therapy comes into the picture. It gives us this incredible framework for understanding the powerful link between what we think, what we feel, and ultimately what we do. You see, at its heart, CBT works on a pretty simple but really profound principle. It's this feedback loop. Your thoughts, something like, I am so far behind, create your feelings, maybe anxiety or stress. That feeling of anxiety then drives your behavior. Maybe you start procrastinating. And of course, that behavior just reinforces the original thought. It's a cycle, and CBT gives us the tools to finally break it. Now, this idea is not exactly new. It all kicked off back in the 1950s with a psychologist named Albert Ellis. He developed something called rational emotive behavior therapy, or REBT for short. This was pretty much the very first form of CBT. Then, a decade later, Aaron T. Beck came along and developed cognitive therapy. And fast forward to today, CBT is considered a gold standard in psychotherapy for all sorts of issues. But the roots of this idea go back even deeper. I mean, way deeper. Ellis was actually heavily inspired by ancient Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, who said this almost 2,000 years ago. It's the exact same concept. It's not the thing that happens to you that's the problem. It's your interpretation of that thing that causes all the distress. So how do we actually use this stuff? How do we put it into practice? Let's move on to the incredible tool that's right at the heart of Ellis's REBT. It's a model that gives us a whole new way to see and reframe our experiences. Okay, it's called the ABCD model, and honestly, it's a total game changer. Let's walk through it. A is for adversity. A big report is due. Now, B is for your belief about it. I have no time to get this done, and it must be perfect or I am a complete failure. This right here is the most important step, because that belief leads to C, the consequences. Anxiety, stress, and you guessed it, procrastination, the ultimate time killer. But you don't have to stop there. D is for disputation, where you actively challenge that belief. You ask yourself, wait a second, is it really true that I'm a failure if this isn't perfect? Where is the evidence for that? And this leads you to E, the effective new belief. You know what? I'll do my best. It doesn't define my entire worth. See the difference? It's huge. So the whole point here is making this one crucial shift. Irrational beliefs are like these rigid dictators in our minds. They're full of I must, I have to, I should. But rational beliefs? They're more like flexible guides. Just changing that one little word from I must finish this perfectly to I would prefer to do a great job can be the difference between being paralyzed by anxiety and actually taking productive action. Okay, that all sounds really good in theory, right? It makes sense. But what does the science have to say about it? Does changing our beliefs with a model like this actually, work?
Oh, yeah, it works. A recent and incredibly thorough systematic review looked at 162 different studies on these REBT interventions. I mean, that is a massive body of evidence.
So, this flowchart might look a little complicated, but the takeaway is really simple. These researchers were incredibly careful. They had to sift through thousands of different records just to find the 162 highest quality studies, making sure the evidence we're about to look at is absolutely rock solid. And the results? Well, they were overwhelmingly positive. The review found that, again and again, these interventions led to big drops in irrational beliefs and big increases in rational ones. And it wasn't just about thoughts changing. People saw real, tangible improvements in things like anxiety and depression. And what's even better, these changes often stuck around long after the study was over.
You know, one of the more surprising things to come out of the review was where the best research was happening. While REBT was shown to be effective everywhere, from schools to hospitals, the studies with the highest quality, we're talking a score of 71%, were actually in the world of sport and exercise. It just goes to show how broadly these principles can be applied.
So we've seen that these techniques are backed by some serious science. But like I mentioned earlier, CBT isn't just one single thing. And to really understand the tools we can use, it helps to look at the two main flavors, pioneered by our friends Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck. Think of it this way. Ellis's REBT, the one we've been focusing on, is kind of like a philosophical debate. It goes right for the jugular, those deep core irrational beliefs, the musts and shoulds. Beck's CT, on the other hand, is more like being a detective. It starts with those quick, surface-level negative automatic thoughts and helps you gather evidence to challenge them. One is very direct, the other is more of a collaboration. Both are incredibly powerful.
Okay, let's bring this all back home, back to our original problem, that feeling that we never have enough time. How do we take these powerful ideas from the world of therapy and turn them into practical, everyday tactics?
Well, the main technique we can borrow is something called cognitive restructuring. And really, it's just the D and E steps of that ABCD model we talked about. It's the active process of catching, challenging, and then changing the unhelpful thoughts that are totally sabotaging our time. So instead of letting that automatic thought, I never have enough time, run the show and create this self-fulfilling prophecy of being overwhelmed, you stop it, you challenge it, and then you reframe it with something that's actually helpful. Something like, you know what? I can manage my time effectively if I just plan well. That simple shift encourages you to be proactive instead of just stressing out. And we can back up this new way of thinking with some concrete CBT-inspired tools. You can use SMART goals to turn that vague anxiety into an actual, actionable plan. Try self-monitoring. Seriously, just track your time for a week to challenge your belief about where it's all going. The results might surprise you. And you can work on assertiveness to set boundaries, because a lot of the time, poor time management just comes from not being able to say no.
So in the end, what this whole approach shows us is that real, effective time management isn't about finding some magical new app or trying to cram more stuff into your day. It is not about doing more. It's about thinking differently.
And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. Just take a second and ask yourself, what's one irrational, rigid, must or should that might be holding you back today? Because just identifying it, well, that's the first step to changing everything.